The Galactic Empire ruled the stars for over 1,000 years. It stretched across hundreds of systems, countless worlds, and dozens of alien races. Its flag flew above every planet, and its fleets filled every sky. But in one dark corner of the galaxy, there was a system the Empire had forgotten, a system once owned by humans. Humanity had vanished long ago. They had fought their last war hundreds of years earlier, a war they called the Fall. After that, the humans were gone. No colonies, no ships, no signals, just empty worlds and broken ruins. The Empire's history books said the humans were proud but weak. They fought too many wars, built too many machines, and finally destroyed themselves. No one remembered their true story, until now. A small Imperial research fleet entered the dead human system known as Solara 9. It was supposed to be a simple survey mission. Check for resources, claim the planet and move on. The fleet's commander, Admiral Tarek Volan, stood on the bridge of his cruiser, staring at the grey planet below. "Nothing but rocks and dust," said his first officer. Volan smiled. "Still, old human worlds often hide useful things. Let's take a look." A landing team of 20 soldiers descended to the surface. Their shuttle touched down near a massive mountain, with strange metal walls sticking out from the rock. It looked like a fortress or maybe a bunker, old but not completely dead. When the team entered, their lights flickered. Inside the tunnels, they saw human writing carved on the walls. The words were simple but strange to them. "Do not enter. Do not wake them," the soldiers laughed. "Old human myths," one said. Probably just an abandoned lab. But the deeper they went, the colder it became. Metal corridors stretched for miles. Machines stood silent, covered in dust, yet, no rust, no decay. And then they found the main chamber. At the center stood a giant vault door sealed tight. It was round, covered with symbols, and glowing faintly blue. Power still flowed through it, after hundreds of years. The commander of the landing team radioed back. "Admiral, we found something." "Looks like a containment vault. Open it," Volan ordered. The team hesitated. "Sir, there are warnings." "I said open it," the Admiral repeated. "Human warnings are meaningless." "Do it." The engineers set to work. Sparks flew as they cut into the metal. It took almost an hour, but finally, with a deep metallic groan, the vault began to move. Dust fell from the ceiling. The ground shook slightly. The soldiers stepped back. The door opened. Inside was darkness. Then a faint light flickered on, green, blinking slowly. Rows of large, transparent pods stretched into the shadows. There were hundreds of them, maybe thousands. Inside each pod lay a figure, humanoid but massive, armored and still. "Are those humans?" one soldier whispered. "Can't be," another said. "They're too big." The lead engineer stepped closer. He tapped on the glass. The pod hissed softly. "Sir," he said nervously, "these systems are still active. There's power coming from somewhere underground." Admiral Volan leaned closer to the hologram projection on his ship. "Activate one," he said. "Let's see what we're dealing with." "Sir, I don't think that's a good—" "Do it." The engineer pressed a control panel on the pod. It lit up instantly. Lights flashed through the entire chamber. One by one, the other pods began to glow as well. The hum of ancient machines filled the air. Sir, something's happening." The floor trembled. The door behind them slammed shut on its own. Emergency lights flickered red. "Get us out of here," someone shouted. But the exit was gone. Then they heard it. A voice, deep, metallic, calm. "System reboot. Protocol Humanity defense sequence activated." The soldiers froze. What the hell was that? All around them, the pods began to open. Cold mist spilled onto the floor. From the first pod, a massive figure stepped out, tall, armored in black steel, its visor burning with a faint blue light. It looked human, but its movements were too perfect, too controlled. It turned its head slowly toward the intruders. "Foreign DNA detected," it said. "Threat level critical. Shoot it." The commander yelled. The soldiers opened fire. Their blasters lit up the chamber, but the figure didn't fall. Bullets bounced off its armor like dust in the wind. The creature raised its hand. A flash of energy burst out, silent, fast. When it faded, only silence remained. The Imperial ship above received a single transmission before all contact was lost. Intrusion detected. Human defense protocol online. Admiral Volan stared at the message, confused. "What defense protocol?" he muttered. And then, from orbit, His ship's sensors picked up a power surge from beneath the planet's surface, a signal older than the Empire itself. Something ancient was waking up. Something that was never meant to be disturbed. The humans were gone, yes, but their soldiers were not. The Galactic Empire had crossed the line, and humanity was about to answer. The storm over Solara 9 raged for hours. Lightning flashed across the dark sky, lighting up the barren surface of the forgotten human world. Above, the Imperial cruiser Vanguard floated in orbit, silent, waiting. Admiral Volan stood on the command deck, staring at the planet below. No signal came from the landing team. No reply, no life signs, just static. His first officer approached. "Sir, it's been 3 hours since contact. Should we send another team?" Volan hesitated. "No, not yet." We wait. But deep inside the planet, something ancient was already awake. The vault chambers that had slept for centuries now hummed with energy. Rows of cryopods hissed as thick mist rolled over the floor. Monitors flickered to life, showing human symbols and codes that no alien or Imperial AI could read. Reboot complete. Project Eternity status operational. One by one the pods opened. Metallic footsteps echoed through the darkness. The soldiers of the Forgotten Age stepped forward. Tall, silent, perfectly still. Their armor was dark, like obsidian, with faint blue lights glowing across their chest and helmet. Their eyes, human once, now shone like stars. They did not speak for several minutes. They simply stood as if remembering who they were. Then one of them, larger, heavier than the rest, slowly moved toward the central console. He placed his armored hand on the screen. "Commander Vex, online." His voice was deep, calm, and emotionless. The console responded instantly, displaying holographic maps of the galaxy, old data from the time before the fall. Vex studied it silently. Then, with a faint mechanical sound, he spoke again. "Humanity status. Unknown." A soft female voice, the system AI, replied, "Human civilization collapsed 812 years ago. No active colonies detected." Vex did not move. He simply stared at the hologram, his expression hidden behind his helmet. "Then the silence lasted too long," he said quietly. "The line has been crossed." The other soldiers turned toward him. They didn't need orders. They understood. They were guardians, created in humanity's final days to protect the species from extinction. They were called Eternals, living weapons, half human, half machine, built to fight wars that no ordinary man could survive. But before they could be unleashed, the war ended. The enemy destroyed Earth, and the human empire fell. The Eternals were locked away, sealed in cryo-sleep, waiting for the day humanity would need them again. That day had come. Vex walked to the remains of the Imperial landing team. Their weapons were scattered, their armor melted. He scanned one of their helmets and connected to their ship's signal network. Instantly, data filled his system, star maps, communication codes, and a full record of the Galactic Empire. He saw the truth. The humans' old enemies were gone, but new rulers had risen, aliens calling themselves the Empire, now controlling everything humanity had ever built. For a moment, he was silent. Then he said in a low voice, "They took what was ours. They stand on our graves." The other soldiers waited for his command. Vex looked up at the ceiling, as if seeing through the rock, through the sky, and into space itself. "Reactivate the network," he ordered. "Bring the satellites online. I want to see our world again." High above the planet, ancient human satellites, either long dead and forgotten, flickered to life. The Empire's scanners went crazy. Signals that hadn't been heard for 8 centuries were suddenly active. Inside the Vanguard, alarms blared. "Admiral, multiple power surges across the planet. Unknown energy readings." Volan shouted, "What is it?" The officer's voice trembled. "Sir, they look human." Volan froze. "That's impossible." The transmission screen lit up. A figure appeared, tall, armored, blue light burning from its eyes. "You invaded our resting place," said Commander Vex. "You woke us before the time. For that, your empire will answer." And then the transmission cut off. Moments later, every ship in orbit lost power. Engines died. Weapons failed. An electromagnetic pulse spread through space like a silent wave. Below, inside the vault, Vex watched as new systems activated. Old human warships buried beneath the surface began to rise. Their hulls glowed faintly as engines that hadn't burned in centuries roared back to life. The Eternals boarded the ships without a word. Each one knew their purpose. Each one remembered their oath. Humanity will never fall again. Vex took command of the lead ship, the Resolute. As it lifted from the ground, he gave his first true order in 800 years. Begin Operation Dawnfire. Identify all human colonies. Eliminate all foreign control. The ships rose into the sky, breaking through the clouds. Lightning flashed behind them as the first human fleet in centuries returned to the stars. In the distance, the Empire fleet tried to regroup, but it was too late. Beams of blue energy sliced through their cruisers. The Vanguard burned bright, then vanished into debris. The Eternals didn't cheer. They didn't celebrate. They simply moved on, cold, efficient, unstoppable. In the quiet of his command deck, Commander Vex whispered to himself, "We are not dead. We are not forgotten. The age of silence is over." And somewhere, far beyond the stars, an ancient human signal began to broadcast again. The symbol of Earth, glowing in the darkness. Humanity was awake. The news spread through the Galactic Empire like fire in dry grass. Entire fleets had vanished near Solara 9. No survivors, no signals, no wreckage, only silence. At first, the Imperial High Council refused to believe it. They blamed pirates, solar storms, even system errors. But soon other reports began to arrive. A mining station destroyed. A patrol ship found drifting. Crew missing, systems wiped clean. Every recording ended the same way. A flash of blue light. And then darkness. The Empire had ruled unchallenged for centuries. No one dared to strike at them. Until now. Admiral Kareth Sol, commander of the Empire's Third Fleet, stood before a giant holographic map. Red markers blinked across the stars, each one representing a lost ship. His sharp reptilian eyes narrowed. "What kind of weapon could do this?" he hissed. His aide answered carefully. "The analysts say it's human technology, sir." Kareth turned sharply. "Impossible. Humans are extinct." The aide swallowed hard. "Sir, the energy signature matches pre-Empire human designs." The room fell silent. Kareth looked at the glowing points on the map, each one closer to the Empire's core worlds. He didn't like the pattern. "Find out who's doing this," he ordered. "And crush them." Across the galaxy, panic spread among the smaller species. Rumors whispered in every marketplace, every bar, every dark alley. The humans have returned. They were never gone. They're machines now, ghosts in armor. The Empire tried to stop the rumors, calling them lies. But the fear grew anyway. In the outer colonies, civilians began to abandon their homes. Entire planets went dark, cutting communication to avoid being noticed. Something unseen was moving through space, silent, efficient, unstoppable. In the deep black between stars, the Resolute and its fleet of awakened human warships glided through the void. Their hulls were black, absorbing light. No radio signals, no heat trails, only cold, perfect precision. Inside the command room, Commander Vex stood in front of the main display. Thousands of dots glowed on the screen. Imperial ships, stations, colonies. His second-in-command, Lieutenant Arin, spoke quietly. "Target priority list uploaded. Shall we begin?" Vex nodded. "Strike only military targets. Leave civilians untouched. Humanity is not here for revenge, only justice." Arin hesitated. "Justice for what, Commander?" Vex's glowing eyes flickered. "For erasing us." Hours later, the first major strike began. An entire Imperial shipyard orbiting the planet Myrax exploded without warning. No alarms, no defenses. The enemy never saw it coming. Human drones had infiltrated the system weeks before, hiding in the planet's rings. When the Resolute arrived, it needed only one command. The explosion was so bright it could be seen from the planet's surface. Millions watched in silence as the Empire's proud shipyard turned to fire. The human fleet transmitted a short message across all frequencies. "We are the guardians of humanity. We are awake. Do not resist." Every screen, every communication hub, every broadcast in the region displayed the same message, written in simple English, glowing white on a black background, and beneath it, the old human symbol appeared, Earth. In the Imperial capital, the Empress herself watched the message in shock. The chamber was silent except for the hum of machines. "Who sent this?" she demanded. No one answered. "Who sent this?" she shouted again. Her advisor bowed deeply. We believe it came from the human system, Your Majesty." The Empress rose from her throne, her golden eyes narrowing. "Then send everything. I want that system burned to ash. No one defies the Empire." But as her fleets prepared to launch, another broadcast interrupted every channel, a calm human voice. "You have taken our worlds. You have erased our history. You have claimed our stars. But you forgot one thing. Humanity always returns." The Empress froze. The voice was not a recording. It was live. "Trace that signal," she shouted. Her technicians worked furiously, but the signal didn't come from any planet or ship. It came from everywhere, from satellites, from relays, from the very systems the Empire had built on top of ancient human networks. The humans had taken control of the entire communication web. In the dark reaches of space, Vex watched as the Empire's fleets mobilized. Thousands of ships gathered in formation, moving toward Solara 9. Arin turned to him. "They're coming, Commander." "All of them." Vex's voice was calm. "Good, let them come." It's time they remembered who taught them war. His fleet shifted into silent formation. Warships, drones, and massive carriers emerged from the shadows like ghosts. The engines glowed faint blue as they moved toward the approaching armada. Far across the galaxy, small groups of humans, survivors hiding for generations, began to see the old signal. They watched in tears as the human symbol appeared again. One old man whispered, "They said we were gone. They said we were weak." He smiled softly. "But we never die, do we?" And somewhere in the command core of the Resolute, Commander Vex stood before the stars and whispered to himself, "The Empire thinks it owns the galaxy. Let's remind them whose blood built it." The screen filled with red dots, the approaching Imperial Armada. Vex raised his hand slowly and gave a single order. "Begin Phase 2. The stars around Solara 9 shimmered as thousands of cloaked human ships appeared. Each one locked weapons. For the first time in 800 years, the galaxy would learn fear again. The fear of humans. The galaxy burned. Every news network, every transmission, every Empire system spoke of one thing. The humans had returned. Entire fleets vanished overnight. Empires that once ruled proudly were now afraid to even speak the word human. But in the middle of the chaos, something unexpected happened. A signal appeared. A weak human distress code, one that hadn't been used in almost 1,000 years. It came from a planet no one remembered, a dead world near the edge of the galaxy. Its name was Erebus Prime. Commander Vex stood on the bridge of the Resolute, staring at the signal. His glowing blue eyes flickered with emotion, something his soldiers rarely saw. Lieutenant Arin spoke quietly. "It's human code, Commander." "Ancient but authentic," Vex nodded slowly. "So, some of them survived." He turned to the navigation officer. "Prepare the fleet. We go to Erebus." The fleet moved silently through the void, their engines dark. Even the stars seemed to dim as the ancient human warships crossed the darkness. Erebus Prime was a grey world, cold, silent, lifeless. But deep beneath its surface, under layers of rock and metal, there was light. The last living humans had hidden here for generations, descendants of refugees who escaped the fall. They lived underground, away from the eyes of the Empire, surviving on forgotten technology and hope. Their leader, an old woman named Mira Solon, had heard the same stories since childhood, stories of soldiers who would one day return to bring humanity back. Most called it a myth. But when the signal from Solara 9 reached their old receivers, she knew the time had come. When the Resolute entered orbit, the human survivors below panicked. To them, any ship in the sky meant danger, the Empire. But this time was different. The fleet didn't attack. Instead, a message came through, in the old Earth language, clear and steady. "This is Commander Vex of Project Eternity. We have come home." Silence filled the underground city. Some cried. Some laughed. Others simply fell to their knees. After centuries of hiding, humanity had been found, by its own creation. Mira stood before the communication console, her wrinkled hands trembling. She spoke slowly, her voice heavy with emotion. "Commander Vex, this is Mira Solon. We are what remains of humanity. We thought you were gone." Vex's image appeared on the screen, tall, armored, glowing faintly in blue light. His voice was calm, almost gentle. "We waited for your command, matriarch. The galaxy forgot us. The Empire rose upon our ruins. But you have endured. You are the reason we were made." Mira's eyes filled with tears. She reached out to touch the screen, as if to feel the presence of the long-lost soldiers. "Then no more hiding," she whispered. "It's time the galaxy remembers who we are." Hours later, the Eternals landed on Erebus Prime. For the first time in centuries, human soldiers and living humans stood face to face. The survivors stared in awe at the towering armored figures. The Eternals, once thought to be lifeless machines, knelt before them. Commander Vex bowed his head. "You are the heart of humanity. We are only your shield." Mira smiled softly. "And together we will rise again." The underground halls filled with cheers, echoes of hope that had not been heard for generations. Over the next days, the Eternals and the survivors worked side by side. Ancient databases were restored. Old Earth technology came back online. Children watched in wonder as human warships filled their skies, protecting them for the first time in their lives. But the peace was short. Scouts reported that the Empire's Grand Armada, the largest fleet in history, was on its way. Thousands of ships, billions of troops. The Empress had declared full war. Arin approached Vex. "They're coming, Commander, all of them." Vex looked toward the stars, calm and unshaken. "Then we'll show them what it means to fight humanity." He turned to Mira. "Matriarch, if we fall, you must carry the flame." But Mira shook her head. "No, Commander. This time we all fight. Humanity will not hide again. Soon, every human ship, every eternal soldier, every survivor who could fight, prepared for the coming battle. The once dead world of Erebus Prime became alive with light and fire. Factories roared back to life. Ancient weapons hummed once more. Children painted the old Earth symbol on walls, ships, and armor. They called it the Dawn Mark. On the bridge of the Resolute, the fleet gathered in formation. Erebus Prime glowed below, now the heart of reborn humanity. Vex stood at the center, Mira beside him. The old and the new, flesh and machine, united for the first time. Vex spoke softly, his voice broadcast across the fleet. "For centuries we were silent. They called us extinct. But we endured. We remembered. Tonight the Empire will see the fire of humanity once more." The soldiers replied as one voice echoing across the stars. "Humanity never dies." The engines flared. The warships rose. And as they left the orbit of Erebus Prime, the stars reflected against their black armor like burning suns. The galaxy watched in silence. For the first time in 1,000 years, the humans were united. The Empire was coming, and humanity was ready to answer. The galaxy was silent, but for the calm before the storm. Thousands of Imperial ships moved in formation toward Erebus Prime. Their engines burned bright, their weapons primed. The Empress had promised total annihilation. Humanity must be erased. But across the void, the human fleet waited. The Resolute, its armor glowing faintly blue, led the Eternals and human warships. Every ship carried soldiers and civilians who had trained for this moment for generations. The humans were ready. Commander Vex stood on the bridge of the Resolute. Beside him was Matriarch Mira, the last living link to humanity's past, the He. Two looked at the approaching armada, thousands of red and grey dots on the holographic map. Arin approached, voice tense. "They're larger than we expected. All fleets combined, billions of troops." Vex nodded, calm as ever. "Then we remind them who built this galaxy. The first shots came from the Empire. Energy beams tore through space, cutting across asteroid fields and destroyed moons. The human fleet responded immediately. Blues and whites streaked across the darkness, ships moving with impossible speed and precision. The first wave of Imperial destroyers was gone within minutes. Vex's fleet was not just fast, it was alive. Ancient human AI guided every move, predicting enemy patterns, anticipating attacks before they happened. Every Imperial strike met a counterstrike. Every assault was planned with deadly precision. On Erebus Prime, civilians watched from underground stations and observation towers. For generations they had hidden from the galaxy. Now for the first time they could see their protectors, the soldiers their ancestors had dreamed of, fighting for them. A young girl whispered to her brother, "They're like legends, alive." Her brother nodded, eyes wide. "And they're ours." Hours into battle, the Empire realized something terrifying. The humans did not retreat. They did not surrender. They fought without fear. Admiral Kareth Sol's flagship was the first to be destroyed. Blue energy sliced through the hull, melting the command deck. His screams echoed briefly, then vanished into the vacuum of space. Every victory the Empire thought it had won turned to ash. Humanity had awakened not just soldiers, but a strategy centuries ahead of the Empire's technology. Yet the battle was not without cost. Ships exploded. Entire squadrons vanished. The Eternals moved with perfection, but each of their own fell. Commander Vex watched his fleet advance, armor scratched and scorched from battle. Then he saw it. The Empress's flagship, massive and black, moving directly toward Erebus Prime. It carried the most advanced weapons the galaxy had ever built. Vex turned to Arryn. "This is it. We end this now." Arryn's eyes widened. "Sir, we can't," Vex interrupted. "No hesitation. Humanity never hesitates." The Resolute charged forward, leading a small strike team directly at the Empress's flagship. Explosions lit the void around them. Blasters flared, shields shimmered, and entire fleets were destroyed in moments. Vex knew that the Empress's ship would destroy Erebus Prime if not stopped. He made a choice, the ultimate sacrifice. "Arryn," he said quietly, "take command, lead the fleet, I'll handle this ship." Arryn shook his head. "No, you can't." Vex placed a hand on his shoulder. "I was made for this. Now humanity has its future. Lead them." Vex boarded the Empress's flagship. Alarms blared. Blaster fire tore through the halls. He moved silently, striking soldiers with inhuman precision. Finally, he reached the central reactor. Its core pulsed with destructive energy, enough to annihilate the planet below. Vex placed his hand on the controls. He smiled faintly. Humanity never dies. He activated the ship's core overload. Energy spread in a brilliant blue flare, engulfing the flagship and tearing it apart from the inside. From orbit, Arryn and the fleet watched. The Empress's armada faltered. Without their flagship, their formations broke. The remaining Imperial ships scattered or surrendered. Erebus Prime was safe. The survivors cheered. Children waved flags and painted the Earth symbol across walls and armor. Matriarch Mira looked at the sky, tears in her eyes. "They kept their promise. They always protected us." Arryn whispered to her, voice shaking, "Commander Vex, he's gone." Mira smiled softly. "He is not gone. He is part of every human who survives, part of every child who sees the stars and dreams, part of us all." In the days that followed, humanity rebuilt. The Eternals integrated with living humans. Ancient ships were repaired. New colonies were claimed. The galaxy remembered the name, humanity. The Empress was captured, her fleets scattered. The galaxy's rulers learned a lesson they would never forget. Humans are not weak. Humans do not vanish. And if crossed, humanity unleashes what cannot be stopped. In the darkness of space, the symbol of Earth shone again, a beacon of hope, strength, and endurance. And across the stars, the last words of Commander Vex echoed, recorded in every human memory. "They called us extinct. They forgot our fire. But in the silence of the stars, humanity waited. And when the Empire crossed the line, we answered."